Nemesis is early Season 4. Not that you would know despite everything that has just happened. Nope. No concern for the arrival of a potentially unpredictable Borg, the absence of Kess, or a nod to the new dynamics that are in play. Nope. It's time to get back to what Voyager does best, forgetting everything that happened last week. Sorry, Paris and Torres, you're going to have to do your necking off camera. As you can see, we are following some sort of commando or guerrilla team in the woods, and they stumble across Chakotay. After the titles, he's dragged back to camp, where their leader, presumably because he has to actually shave, asks what's going on, and when the subordinate explains, demands that Chakotay be released, since obviously he is not the Nemesis, trademark. He explains he was investigating some strange readings, and then someone shot down his shuttle. Brone, leader of this group, says that it was the Kraden, a.k.a. the Nemesis. But anyway, can you help Chakotay, and please phrase your answer in the form of babbling.
I have to find my vessel. Maybe it's salvageable.
That's little likely. We're ordered to cluster with the 7th contingent 2 new lights from now. They'll have means to signal your people. You can make the walk with us to meet them.
I appreciate the offer, but I can't wait 2 days. I have to find my vessel now.
It wouldn't be sharp to return to the trunks.
Pity they have no universal translator to more accurately change his meaning to something understandable, huh? I'm sure some people like this, but with the UT firmly established, why is it that even more alien-looking aliens speak perfect English, and yet this dope can't? This exercise is just distracting, replacing words with words that are either less commonly used or are less accurate. For example, there's a difference between seeing and glimpsing, and yet the two words will be used interchangeably. This is what it's like when a white screenwriter in Los Angeles thinks he's writing slang for kids in inner-city Detroit. The upshot of this is that Chakotay is going to stay with them until the morning when it will be safer, allowing him a chance to bond with these locals, especially Rafin, freshly added to their little troop. Chakotay tries talking with him, but the rest treat the guy like a noob.
Rafin's never glimpsed the face of the Nemesis either. Have you, Rafin?
No. It's my first walk in the Clash Zone.
Walk in the Clash Zone was the first draft of Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone, and I have to say, the change was a good idea.
You'll glimpse them in the soon after. When you do, you'll fathom there's no heart thumping beneath their flesh.
Then you too can express like a complete hot dog.
Me, I'll nullify one for each brother and cousin that I've lost. And then one more after. True or not, my allies?
True! True!
Deal or no deal? Deal! Red wine or white? It depends on if we're having fish again. This makes Rafin feel like a putz, so Chakotay asks why they refer to their enemies as beasts.
It's told they all wear the same horrid face.
Oh, so you're a racist then. Chakotay points out that it's common in war to make the enemy seem far more terrible than they actually are.
There might be some young Kraden soldier out there who's more afraid of you than you are of him.
No one's more afraid than me. He talks about the way they slaughtered his village.
Nor scared to nullify my cousins and brothers in their sleep. And my old mother's mother, too. Never told an unkind word nor nullified an insect in all her days and nights on this sphere.
That's pretty rough.
I guess Chakotay left all his fucks back on the shuttle and has none left to give now. It's pretty rough of your family being wiped out like that. Any dip to go with this? Is a little dry. Well, Chakotay is going to need an escort to get to the shuttle, and while Brone thinks that it should be Rafin, the guy who's been giving him shit volunteers to do it instead.
If any beast comes to clash, I'll nullify the beast.
Well told, Naaman.
Nemesis was a real breakthrough. It was the first script written with help by a spam bot. I know I'm belaboring the point, but again, they have the most non-human dialogue, and yet they're the most human-looking. They don't even have any Play-Doh on their face here. This is supposed to be an alien planet here because they talk funny? For all I know, this is the hills of Appalachia.
Now close your glimpses, defenders. And dream of your sisters and mothers.
Well, that really just proves my point for me, doesn't it? So, after a full night of dreaming of their mothers and sisters, Chakotay and his escort head out, where they have a chance to discuss war. Chakotay saying it was the hardest thing he ever had to do, but in general his people try to resolve things peacefully. This guy thinks those are the words of ignorance, but never mind. It's starting to get late, and they still haven't found the shuttle or the remains of a shuttle.
In a few minutes, we should be getting close. You'd be sharp to do my tellings.
You would. You can get a share of that crapload of money he has in a bank in Nigeria. They find some signs, but get ambushed by the Nemesis, killing the guide, but not to worry, the cavalry comes over the hill. After dispatching the bad guys, they do a little funeral thing for the dead guy, then turn him face down. The Nemesis do the reverse, and thus desecrate their bodies, and that cannot be abided. That's why they will put him face down and pile a bunch of rocks on top of him, so the scavengers will take an extra 15 seconds before they drag out the corpse. Brone gives Chakotay the guy's clothes to wear, despite the fact that Chakotay clearly has about half a foot and 50 pounds on the guy. He'd have an easier time pulling out his old cadet uniform. He'd have an easier time pulling out his old Boy Scout uniform. He tries apologizing for what happened, but Brone takes it all as part of war.
But in the soon after, we'll send them flying from this sphere and go back to our sisters and mothers.
Yeah, you do that. It would have sounded a lot better if you hadn't mentioned them earlier in that context. Anyway, after this point that, thankfully, he does not elaborate on, he insists that Chakotay also take the gun. If they're to escort him, the least he can do is join in if any killing happens. It is only polite, after all. Rafen is put in charge of training Chakotay in the use of the gun, but he's still all butthurt about what happened to the guy who took his place, the fact that he died because of Rafen's cowardice. Chakotay finally explains about his own war with the Cardassians, to admit that even someone as brave as he is still gets scared before battle. But it provides little comfort.
I was told to drill you, Chakotay.
Sorry, I'm saving myself for my sister. That night they come across a dead guy, staked out and face up, a sign of desecration and of more bad news, because they're not reaching that guy's unit on the radio. They'll need to check on things, and Rafen volunteers, showing how Chakotay has helped his courage grow. And they'll need that because this guy's whole unit was actually wiped out.
Do you glimpse the fullness of it now, stranger?
Do you realize that glimpsing the fullness means to have only the tiniest grasp of the big picture? Don't write your script with a thesaurus and a find and replace function.
We're wearied of it, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
We're wrestled to the ranges for it, aren't we?
Yes, sir. English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Despite his theoretically inspirational speech, they're soon attacked by the Nemesis, where everyone is killed and Chakotay is shot in the shoulder. But soon he stumbles into a nearby village, where he's welcomed as a defender, and then promptly collapses, presumably from the shock of someone actually being happy to see him. After the commercial, we meet up with Voyager, which has been searching for him. They found the remains of the shuttle, right in the middle of the war zone.
Which means we don't know if he's still alive.
Why don't we assume that he still is?
I feel like trying something new today. So tell me, Toilet Brush, what do you know about this war, other than the fact that I didn't get invited?
It's vicious. Ambassador Treen's people have been defending themselves against a particularly savage aggressor for more than a decade.
Vicious and savage, huh?
Let's hope he doesn't meet up with these savage aggressors first.
Yeah, and let's hope that no one has missed the glaringly obvious twist you just gave away there. And can I just point out the irony of having Torres, of all people, referring to savage aggressors, someone who disagreed with someone and thus broke their face? Anyway, lest you think that Tom's commando leadership skills was a one-off thing, no. He immediately steps up to lead another commando team to go in search of Chakotay, and this is not the last time he does it this episode. Some characters are an everyman, but Tom Paris has the skill of every man. Meanwhile, Chakotay is trying to explain things to the villagers.
By your coverings, you're a novice defender. Do I tell the truth?
Listen, there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not a defender.
I'm actually a pretender defender. Here for a mender, because my shoulder is tender thanks to the offender. So if you won't render, I'll ask the bartender to start up a bender before I surrender. He explains what happened, but they think that he's a true defender anyway.
You are welcome among my neighbors.
But not me, I spit on you, tui! He asks if there's any way to get some communications equipment, but as usual, it's a long trip, so it will be better handled the next day. This gives him a chance to talk to a girl, Karya, who had given him a wreath to wear, and after giving him food, wonders aloud at why the Nemesis does the awful things they do.
So why do they hate us?
I wish I could tell you. Hate's not something I understand very well.
It's an emotion. I'm not really very good with them.
My brother's a defender too.
Really?
Just please tell me you don't spend your time dreaming about him, kid.
He was sturdy and pleasing to glimpse in his colors.
That's my fault. I was too specific in my request. Maybe the reason they all talk funny is the generations of inbreeding at work. Chakotay agrees to drop off a letter for her brother at the relay station where he's going, and all the villagers see him off, with provisions and kind words and a general sense of well-being. But not long after leaving, enemy craft fly over and bomb the village, and when Chakotay returns, he discovers all of the all the bad guys rounding up the poor people, and he's captured before he can do anything. Back on Voyager, they discuss the Nemesis and how nasty they are, just in case you didn't already gather what the plot twist was. Tuvok says that an away team would be a mistake. Everything suggests that it would be spotted and they'd suffer heavy casualties. So he'll go in with one of the local commando teams to try and rescue Chakotay. Tom is aghast that it won't be him, so he's left to stay up here and invent flubber or something. Meanwhile, Chakotay's having a pretty bad time of it, interrogated by the Nemesis, and then beaten up when he tries to find out what happened to Karya's grandfather. So he tries to comfort her.
Close your glimpses. And dream of your gloried brother.
There comes a point where you have to ask, did nobody notice the incestuous overtones of your episode? This thing would make Cersei Lannister uncomfortable to watch. By now you've probably noticed that the aliens have inexplicably been modeled after the titular character from the Predators series. I've no idea why they've done this, but if I were to guess, it wouldn't surprise me if the Hirogen, which were set to debut 11 episodes after this one, originally looked like this, and someone realized that they were going to get sued, so the costumes were swapped around. Anyway, her grandfather and the other old people are being led away to the extermination center, and when she intervenes, she is going to be brought there as well. So Chakotay breaks free and starts attacking the guy in charge until he gets conked on the head. That means he's unconscious when the plot twist is finally revealed.
Our ambassador training his soldiers ready to beam aboard.
Aye, Captain.
Energize. Welcome aboard, Ambassador.
Wow, I never saw that coming. It seems they just can't do an episode around Chakotay that isn't either steeped in American Indian stereotypes or gives away the plot ahead of time. It's more of a plot twist to find out that Brone's not dead, actually, as he comes to Chakotay's rescue when he's left staked out and left for dead. Chakotay is so disgusted and outraged at the bad guy's behavior that he plans to join Brone in fighting with a new unit, even when offered a chance to try to contact Voyager. So they head into battle, only there's a big-ass flashbang that knocks them all down. But Chakotay gets back up and keeps firing, even as one calls him by name. A predator comes out claiming to be Tuvok, and speaking in Tuvok's typical way of speaking, claiming that the Vori were the ones who shot down and captured Chakotay. This has all been a part of their efforts to brainwash him into becoming their soldier, a tactic they use often.
Before today, nothing you experienced here was real.
That would explain why they talk like a spam bot, wouldn't it? To prove it, he leads Chakotay over to the village, only to see that not only is it intact, but everyone reacts to him exactly the same as they had the first time, as if he'd never been here before.
Including photometric projections, heightened emotional stimuli, and highly sophisticated psychotropic manipulation. From the condition of your hypothalamus, I'd say they had you so mixed up they could have convinced you your own mother was a turnip.
Don't mention mothers or sisters, please. It's been a long week. All the deaths and sufferings were to make him bond with the Vori and despise the Kraden, something the Vori authorities do to any passing aliens, as well as some of their own people in order to get them to fight. But knowing this intellectually doesn't change what he has been through, and he's forced to walk out when the Kraden ambassador arrives.
I wish it were as easy to stop hating as it was to start.
Yeah, that's why I never bothered trying. I'm gonna go tell Fangface to piss off. If you need to talk to somebody about what happened, just remember my door is always closed and locked. Post-episode follow-up. Stupid Neelix's moment is giving away the plot. Others did it too, but he was the first, so at that point the damage was done. We have a burn baby burn for Chakotay's shuttle, which incidentally makes it the 3rd episode in a row with a lost shuttle. That's really the time when you need to start giving driver's tests to the crew, and maybe sobriety tests also. Final score for Nemesis is 5 out of 10, average by Voyager standards, and scored that despite its own best efforts to sabotage itself. The language was a mistake. Its only usefulness was that its terribleness kept me amused during the rather lackluster first half. As for the rest, it's a bit like Twisted, where Kenneth Biller seems to go out of his way to take an interesting idea and find a way to ruin it. The ending helps, and Beltran does what he can with the role, although you're playing with fire when your scene depends on Chakotay giving an engaging performance. So it works, but it could have been better with a stronger first half and better dialogue. And also not giving away the ending.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.